Welcome to The Courage to Reconnect. I'm your host, Sarah Monares, therapist, coach, and author. It has always been important to me to create intentional spaces to talk openly about the things so many people quietly carry alone. Because it's in the open that we heal, and it's in the open that we allow ourselves to be fully seen. In this space, we have real conversations about things like relationships, attachment, anxiety, codependency, healing, and the patterns that keep us disconnected from ourselves and the people we care about most. Together, we'll explore what it means to reconnect with yourself, create healthier relationships, and become more fully who you really are, and exit your loop. I'm so glad you're here. Let's get brave and dive in. In episode 4, we talked about triggers and how they are the doorway to the disconnection loop. So if you haven't listened to that episode, I encourage you to. But just a reminder as we move into the conditioning part of the loop, triggers aren't the problem. The goal isn't to eliminate all of our triggers. It's to get the information they're trying to give us. So when we are triggered, it ignites beliefs that are formed by our conditioning. So we are really going to dive into conditioning today. So if you know you're triggered by something and you ask yourself the question, why does this trigger me? Your answer may be, and probably will be, completely different than someone else. So two people can receive the same criticism at work, but react completely differently to that criticism. Two people can wait hours for a text back and tell themselves completely different stories about why the person's not responding to their text messages. One person can see conflict as an opportunity for growth, and another person can immediately fear that the relationship is ending and that conflict means the relationship is over. In each of these, it's the same situation, but the two people have a completely different reaction. And why is that? That's because they've been shaped differently by their conditioning. Whether we realize it or not, every relationship we've ever had has taught us something about ourselves, other people, our relationships in general, and the world. And those experiences become the lens through which we experience life. So let's dive in a little bit more specifically into what is conditioning. So we can go back to Psychology 101 and break down classical and operant conditioning, but I'm not going to go into the details of that. The takeaways, though, are that we learn how to respond based not only on our experiences, but what we're rewarded or punished for. So the biggest way we are conditioned is through our relationships. How our caregivers responded to our self-expression, our behaviors, and whether or not you're rewarded or punished for that tells us at a very early age who we need to be in the system that we're growing up in. It's important to know that not all conditioning is negative. There's actually healthy, positive conditioning that teaches us things like my feelings matter, I can trust people, when I have a need, it will be met, conflict can be repaired, it's at the end of the world. I'm loved even when I make mistakes. I don't have to earn my worth. So having that messaging or experiences that are positive in our early relationships really helps us move through life with confidence and security. But not all conditioning comes from safe relationships. And unfortunately, our parents' generation and the generations before really have a strong theme of being taught to disconnect from themselves. So if we're being conditioned by people who are also disconnected from themselves, then that's very telling about the kind of beliefs we are going to learn from them. So, in the context of the disconnection loop, we're talking specifically about the conditioning that comes from relational wounds. Your positive, healthy conditioning doesn't send you into the disconnection loop. Your hurtful conditioning does. So, most of us, unless you've had a perfect life, which I don't know many people who have, are living from relationships wounds that we didn't consciously choose. And these wounds, they become lessons and teaching, and they shape how we see ourselves, how we experience relationship, what feels safe, what feels threatening, and even what we believe we're responsible for. The challenge is that these relationships, they don't feel like lessons, they feel like truth. And we very rarely stop to question them because we've been living from them for so long. When we have painful relationship experiences, our brains naturally try to make sense of them. So, as we're growing and learning each experience we have, it really causes us to ask the question, what does this mean? What does this mean to me? What does this punishment or reward or the way that they responded to me, what does that mean? And then our brain makes meaning of a situation and then files it away as a belief. So here are some examples. If you feel ignored as a child, you can then turn that into the meaning, the belief of my needs don't matter. If you're often criticized or yelled at, then the belief can become no matter what I do, I'm never enough. If you have an emotionally unavailable or immature caregiver, you can incorporate the belief that I can't depend on people. Maybe there's parents who have explosive fighting, or all the way to the other extreme, no fighting at all. And so healthy conflict wasn't modeled for you. So the belief then can develop of conflict isn't safe, conflict is dangerous. And then the last one, love is only shown through achievement. When you get straight A's, when you do something amazing. And that causes you to develop the belief of, I have to earn love, I have to perform, I have to be perfect. And so the relational wounds we experience, they're not just about the situation that happened, but more powerful is the meaning we make around those situations. What did the experience or the interaction teach you about yourself? So we gather these beliefs all throughout our lives, but usually that starts very, very young, before we're even consciously aware of it. Then, once we have a belief, we often look for evidence to support that belief. But this usually it happens behind the scenes. Our beliefs are often really invisible to us. We don't wake up one morning consciously choosing them. We simply experience them as truth. So our conditioning doesn't feel like, oh yeah, that's just my conditioning. It just feels like reality. But our beliefs become the lens we use to interpret everything around us. The same event will be filtered differently depending on the beliefs that we're carrying. So things like a delayed text, constructive feedback, a disagreement with the partner, someone canceling plans, someone setting a boundary. The event stays the same, but for each person, the meaning changes. And this is why there's such room for conflict in relationships. This is how I respond to something. Why don't you respond to it the same way? Why don't you understand me? Why don't you understand my response, my beliefs, because we all have different beliefs and different conditioning. And then it's that meaning that we assign to those experiences, those wounds, that really create our emotional reaction. We don't react to life exactly as it is. We react to life through the beliefs we've developed about it. So let me put this into context for you. And I just want to tell you a little story. There's someone who I love very much who's really struggling. And it's not my story to tell, it's their story to tell, but I can tell my side of that. This person is hurting, they're struggling, and there's a lot of pain around a situation that they're experiencing. And I have been really feeling very consumed by it, very responsible for the situation. I can't stop thinking about it. I think I dream about it at night. It has become consuming for me. And so I was talking to my husband about it the other night, and he asked me a question, which was very helpful. And his question was, why does this bother you so much? As humans, I think it's easy for us to poo-poo those things, right? Like, meh, I don't know. I don't know why it bothers me so much, and push it off to the side and not really dig into the answer of that. And that's why we just keep staying in the loop. So it was a really helpful prompt for me to realize I am in a loop. I do need to lean into this. I really do need to think about this. And so I went for a walk shortly after he asked me that question. And instead of staying in the emotion, I intentionally created the space to slow down enough, get outside, go for a walk, and walk myself through my own framework, because we are all human. And this is a great place for me to reiterate the fact that this loop will show up over and over and over and over and over again, no matter how much work you've done, no matter how much awareness you have. But when you become aware of the fact that you're in the loop, it's easier to exit it much more quickly. And so I realized I was in the loop. So I started asking myself questions. What happened? What am I feeling? What am I believing? Why am I feeling this way? Where is this belief coming from? And ultimately, what am I really afraid of? So here were my takeaways. Based on my upbringing and the learning that I had, my wounding, was that my belief is that I am responsible for trying to manage everyone else's emotions. When someone is hurting, it's my job to make them feel better. My mom was very emotionally immature. My dad had very unpredictable anger. And so I got really good at learning to monitor everyone else's emotions and feeling responsible for everyone else's well-being. And that's great. It's great for me to notice that belief that I have and that I hold. But when I asked the question, what am I really afraid of? I was able to take it even further. It's not only that it's my job to make people feel better, but I'm actually afraid that if I don't, something bad will happen. And then if something bad happens, it will be my fault because I didn't do anything. So somewhere along the way, and sometimes I want to side note here, somewhere in my upbringing, I don't know exactly, honestly, where that came from. Sometimes we can't always pinpoint where a specific part comes from, a specific belief. We can't say this is the situation exactly that made this belief true for me. And that's absolutely okay. I think this is maybe for me, it's from my religious upbringing. It's from an accumulation of messaging over time from my family, from media, from religion. Sometimes these things develop, and we don't necessarily need to have a conscious awareness about where it comes from. I'm going a bit off on a tangent here because I see my clients go round and round and round and round trying to figure out why they believe something in particular. And I just want to reiterate to you today that I don't think you need to know exactly why. You just need to know that you do, that this is my belief. I learned that I should feel guilty if I don't carry the emotional responsibility of others. And ultimately, that's a lot of weight to carry. Yeah, it's a lot of weight to carry. I'll tell you that. Where specifically does that come from? I have an idea, but it's not the goal to zone into the why. It's to be able to take that today and say, this is where I'm functioning from today. This is the belief and the fear that is guiding me and my response to this today. So let's walk through the entire loop with this situation, this example. So the trigger was someone I love is struggling. The conditioning is it's my job to make people feel better. Then we move into the fear. If I don't do something, something bad could happen, and then it will be my fault. Then the spiral. These are all in future episodes, but it's helpful to know how the rest of the loop plays out. The spiral. What if it gets worse? This is where you spiral out of control of the what ifs. Your brain starts telling you stories. What if they make a terrible decision? What if I could have prevented it? What if years from now I look back and I realize I didn't do enough? Then that leads to control. So the control portion, constantly thinking about it, researching it, checking in, trying to fix it, trying to say the perfect thing to make it better, carrying it mentally all day. And then moving to self-judgment, because that control part gets really heavy really quickly. Judging myself for my response. Why do I care? Why am I making such a big deal about it? It's not that big of a deal. Why am I doing this to myself? And I'm not doing enough. Like this can really be an inner battle. Maybe I'm failing. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I don't really know how to help people. Then we really are moving into the self-doubt. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should intervene. Maybe I should stay out of it. I don't even know the right thing to do. Oh, do you see how this spiral really, the loop gets us out of control? And so that really feels bad. It really feels like too much. And then so this is what brings us to the withdrawal, where we disconnect and really get to a point where maybe you're not even present in your own life, because I'm mentally living inside someone else's life in this situation, all the way to like just shutting down. I can't think about this anymore. It's too much for me, distracting myself, withdrawing ultimately from myself because I don't want to be in this loop. So when it comes to conditioning, it's important to understand that our past very strongly influences our present. But what we want to focus on here is the present. How am I feeling today? How is this affecting me today? Your current relationships aren't creating all your beliefs. They're simply revealing the beliefs that were already there. The things that we're conditioned to believe become the foundation of our fears. So if I believe I'm responsible for everyone, I fear letting people down. If I believe I'm too much, I fear being rejected. If I believe I have to earn love, I fear not being chosen. If I believe I can't trust people, I fear putting myself out there and being vulnerable. Those fears don't stay quiet. They begin shaping the stories that we tell ourselves, the choices that we make, and the way we protect ourselves. The fear is the fuel for the rest of the disconnection loop. And so before we move into fear during the next episode, I would love for you to really focus on your conditioning. Get the information that you need from this portion of the loop. What are the things you've been conditioned to believe? And really create more awareness about this section. So asking yourself questions like, what beliefs do I carry about myself? What do I believe about other people? What do I believe about relationships? What do I believe about conflict? What do I believe about asking for help? What do I believe about making mistakes? What do I believe about myself? What do I believe about love? What do I believe I have to do to be accepted? These are really, really great questions to lean into because they're going to give you a lot of information about what the lens that you're seeing the world through really is. And then ask, where do these beliefs come from? What relationships helped to shape them? And the goal here is not blame. It's not to go back and blame every relationship you've ever had, every caregiver, every friend, every bully. That's not the goal. It's not to blame. The goal is to really understand. Understanding creates compassion, and compassion creates safety. Safety creates the possibility for change. So you can't change a belief that you don't know you're carrying. So notice the beliefs that show up throughout the week without trying to fix them. Go on a walk if you need to. What beliefs are running me right now? What beliefs are really in control of where I am, how I'm going through the loop? And gather the information that they have for you. So let's recap. We're all conditioned through relationships. Some conditioning is developed through relational wounding. And those wounds can really shape the beliefs that we carry. Those beliefs influence how we interpret our experiences. And those beliefs become the foundation of our fears. So the first step isn't changing your beliefs, it's just becoming aware of them. Remember, the beliefs you carry today may have been shaped by your past, but you don't have to let them define your future. That's why we're doing this work. That's why we're helping you create awareness about these beliefs. And then next week, we're going to talk about fear, because every belief carries a fear, and the fear quietly becomes the engine that drives the rest of the disconnection loop. So, okay, thank you for being here and for doing the brave work. I will see you next time. Thank you for being here with me today on The Courage to Reconnect. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who may need it too. You can listen to all of the episodes over on couragepod.com. Remember, change doesn't happen through awareness alone. It happens when we begin showing up for ourselves with curiosity and self-compassion, taking brave action, and practice reconnecting instead of repeating the same old patterns. Until next time, keep finding the courage to show up and stay connected, even when it's uncomfortable. I am cheering you on. This podcast is produced by Loudspeaker, and it is intended for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for therapy or individualized mental health care. Listening to this podcast does not create a therapeutic relationship with Sarah Monares or any other guests. If you need additional support, I really encourage you, please reach out to a licensed mental health professional. in your area, or visit findahelpline.com for international information about mental health support near you.
This is Loudspeaker